Welcome, everybody. This is your host, Karen Oliver, with the We Dream Fearless podcast. And I'm excited. I'm excited. I told you all, I promised you all that we would have a great summer. So, for the month of July and August, we've got some great speakers in here. And today, I have Brigette Heller with me today on the We Dream Fearless podcast. And we're going to be talking about rocking the stage. She is a podcast coach and entrepreneur. She empowers and inspires women. And so let's get right into it. Hey, Brigette.
Hey, so happy to be here.
Yay. I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm so glad that, we connected. You know how it's powerful how everybody has, built their brand and have started a podcast and how they have so many similarities with, just coaching people and helping people. So I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, I love being in this world because you get to be part of someone's journey.
Yeah.
And I think there's nothing more fun than being part of someone's journey and seeing them grow into their full potential. I want to be part of that every time.
Yeah, I love it. I love it to be able to just, inspire and, help one another. And it's not a competition, right? It's not a competition thing. It's like, look, we're helping one another. We're building one another in this community. So let's all win. So I love it. I love it.
Yeah, so I have two podcasts, The Strong and Capable, which is headed into season 5. And the second one is called Connected in Christ, and it is launching this fall. That one's a panel of 5 women, all different backgrounds and faiths. So we were talking about how sometimes when you feel this calling to do something,
Yeah.
all of a sudden you see it everywhere, right? Like you get the white Jeep and now everyone on the road has a freaking white Jeep. Like what the?
That's how it is.
But that's how it is. So I told him, I said, when you feel drawn to do something, when you feel that I've got to share this message, I've got to do this thing, and then you start seeing it everywhere, it shouldn't be terrifying. It should be verifying that you're on the right track, that this is a need in the world because many people are feeling called to speak it. And you get to be part of that movement, whatever it is. It's really cool.
And that's awesome. I love it. So I know I followed one of your podcasts, so I definitely got to follow the other one, the strong, would you say the strong and capable?
Strong and capable.
Strong and capable. That's awesome that you're growing and everything. So thanks for sharing that with us. So tell us about, your journey and how do you become about, empowering women and rocking the stage with them, giving them that confidence to say, hey, if I can do it, you can do it.
I think you come to that journey, or at least I did, from walking the journey, like knowing what it's like to be disempowered, knowing what it's like to feel like nothing, to feel small, to feel unseen, unheard, to be stuck. Like that is where I've been so many times in my life. I have depression that pops up gloriously every time I think I'm like flying in life, and then it'll hit hard and I have to battle back. And I've had anxiety my whole life. I didn't know that till I was an adult. I didn't identify what it was. And so battling those thoughts that come with anxiety, I say I've lost and found myself 100 times. And so that's why I can help women understand who they are and help them create a vision for where they're going, is because I've walked that walk so many times. So many times. So, but as far as where it started, where the strong and capable really started, was when I was in my deepest depression of my life. I had lost my sister 9 years ago, almost 10 years ago now. And I sat by her hospital bed, and she was so scared to leave us. There was such an intense emotion around her leaving us. And I wanted to give her comfort. And so I offered the only words that came to my mind and heart, and I rubbed her arms and stroked her face like you would someone you love. And I said, Aubrey, I love you. I will always love you. You are strong and capable. It's okay to let go.
Yes, yes.
Those were the words that came to my heart, and I said them again and again and again until she took her last breath. And then I fell into the deepest depression of my life. And it didn't matter what I had the blessings, the gifts, the jobs, none of that mattered because I didn't know who I was without her. And when you don't know who you are, it's hard to do anything.
Yeah.
So I was lost. And about 3 months into this depression, I was sitting in church actually. And I was like, I don't care what you're saying. Don't care what the people around me are doing. Like, none of this matters because I am lost. And I felt her hands on my shoulder and I heard her voice. And she said, Brigette, you are strong and capable. Get up and go to work. And I knew that was her. I'm getting chilled even to this day.
That's amazing. You know, that's amazing when you know, because when you have a relationship with Christ, you just know that's what I'm saying. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to stop you there, Bridget, but I just had to say, like, isn't that awesome? You know what I'm saying? How, he sends that assurance to you to let you know, look, she's fine.
Yeah.
She's okay. She wants you to be okay.
Yeah. It was such a personal, no other person could have said that to me and had it impact me the way it did. Only her, right? And when she did it, I remember, first of all, looking out the room and being like, nobody else heard that? This is just, what the heck? And then what does that mean? What does it mean to get up and go to work? And what does it mean to be strong and capable? So it's been 10 years of me discovering what is that and then teaching other people what it means to get up and be strong and capable and move forward in your life.
That's awesome, because that speaks volume even to people around you and everything that you've been doing for the last 10 years. And so you have that experience and you have that story to tell them. It's like when we show up in our niche, it's like it's not for nothing, because when you're talking to someone, they shouldn't be like, well, he or she doesn't have a story to tell me. Like, I'm looking to see how he or she can help me get out of this funk. And everybody has a story. And like you said, we have to use it. We do.
Yeah. Everybody has a story. Everybody has a story. And one of my favorite things to do, sometimes I like the Strong and Capable isn't a religious podcast, but I myself am religious. And so I use a lot of religious analogies, but like when I'm in a funk, one of my favorite tools to use, and this is what can teach you what stories you have, is when I'm in a funk and I can't get going, I call it shower preaching, because there's something about being in the shower that's so calming, right? You're like, okay. Or you can cry in the shower. It's like everything washes away, all the junk, all the emotions. And so when I'm in the shower, I will share the story. What's the struggle that I'm going through? I'll just say it emotionally, very emotionally. And then I'll share, just like a preacher would or a motivational speaker, I'll share people who have been through hard things that overcame it, people that I admire, people through history or even currently. So I'll share about their triumphs, and then I will give 2 or 3 tips of how I overcame my current struggle. Remember, I haven't overcome it yet, but by giving myself these pretend tools that I would give an audience, it gives me like the strength to get out of the shower and start again. And so I love shower preaching, but it's a great way to discover what your story is, because when you start telling your victory stories, the things you've overcome, that's what other people need from you. That's what they.
It's like made me think about victory laps, how many victory laps we don't realize that we have. And like you said, it's an awesome thing. You're right to get in the shower and just be like, look, I'm dealing with this, but how can I, let me just go ahead and, lift my spirits up. There's nobody in there with you. It's just you confessing, this is the way I feel, but this is the way that I'm going to get out of it, So it's like, why do I thought about this question. I was like, I'm going to ask Bridget this question. Why some of us feel like that we're not satisfied with what we're doing or with the niche that we're already in?
That is a good question. That's a good question. I think it's because we know that we're supposed to do more.
Yeah.
We've gotten too comfortable with wherever we're at, even if we don't think it. Humans aren't meant to stay where we're at. We're meant to always be transforming and always changing. And so when we're not on the process of evolution, when we're not always doing something that scares us or makes us a little nervous, then we're going to be unsatisfied and unhappy. It won't be enough. It just never will be.
And do you think that is like something that's lacking within, I would say, like our childhood or anything, or just something that we haven't came to terms with? I know fear could be one of them. What are some other things that could be holding us back from actually showing up the way that we need to show up?
Well, I mean, always conditioning, whatever that looks like, whether that's cultural, whether that's social, the conditioning and the stories that we have in our mind are
Yeah,
always going to keep us captive unless we identify them and rewrite them. So I think that is a huge part of it. And then because of that, again, like you said, fear.
yeah,
Fear is, I meet so many people who are scared, but they don't know they're scared because they haven't taken time to like think about it, to pause and be real with themselves and
right.
feel the. So fear, and then the third, not knowing who you are, as I mentioned earlier. If you don't have a firm identity, really know who you are and what that means. And I'm not talking about like today. Today I like ice cream and the color blue or what. I'm not talking about superficial things. I'm talking about
Right,
deep,
right.
like know who you are. Then it's really hard to figure out where you want to go or how you want to impact. It's really hard to have long-term vision without having a firm foundation of who you are.
And I'm glad that you said that because it always goes back to your identity and
Mhm.
knowing you know, what type of identity am I putting on? What am I is this really my real identity? And most times it's not, because like you said, that's why we're not happy. It's about putting down that firm foundation and knowing who we are. Like I'm going to stop trying to fit in, and I'm going to do with you know what Karen needs to do, and or I'm going to do what Bridget needs to do. This is my purpose, but some people, a lot of us, we don't know it, because like I said, we haven't, you know, we haven't checked out the list of finding out, like you said, who we are.
Yeah, and it's not easy. It's not easy to face yourself in the mirror and be like, this is who I am. And some of it's not pretty. Some of it's, I had to do some facing in the mirror last night. I was just talking to my cute daughter. She's in college. She's a psychology major. So we get to have fun
Awesome.
conversations.
Yeah.
But yeah, but we were talking and I told her I had to do some facing last night. And there were a lot of tears to
Oh
come
yeah.
to terms with some of the things that I needed to fix, some of the things that I was doing that were unhealthy for me or needed to be improved at this point. Sometimes there's safety. I had a good friend. She said, Brigette, how did you deal with the trauma? So I've been through a lot of childhood trauma. So sometimes there is safety in putting things in a box, putting
Mm-hmm.
it right? And we do this with our identity. We put it in a box because we're not in a place where we can work through that. So we put it in a box and we put it away. And then when you're feeling strong for whatever particular reason, you just accomplished a goal you wanted to, or you started new healthy habits and you're just emotionally in a healthier place, then you can take that box out and unpack it, So you have to have an awareness of self enough to know when is the time to put away, when is the time
Yeah,
to
yeah.
unpack, and be at peace with what comes in unpacking that box. That it's going to be a
Mm.
journey, but you won't be the same on the other side of it. But you're going to love that person a lot more because you're going to admire the person who had the courage to unpack it and become from it.
I love it because when you said that you know, had to cry. And I've even, you know, shared some of those stories where um, you know, I shared with the audience before in season one that there was a lot of things that were keeping me from even jumping into my purpose. Unhealthy relationships. That was one episode we talked about. One was unhealthy relationships, unhealthy friendships, and just like I said before, just trying to fit in. But then I had to realize, Karen, that's not you. And the right people will come when I, like you said, when you had to cry last night, I had to do some like, you know, sobbing, crying, well, like, you know, God. And like you said, like our podcast, you know, somehow as because we have a relationship with Christ, you're gonna find us, you know, speaking of the goodness, even though we're laid back and, you know, we have transparent conversations. I'm sure you do, Bridget, on your conversation, but when there's a need, somebody does need to hear it. So it's like, hey, I've been through the same thing you've been through. It just may have been different. And I remember I was just crying and crying and crying. And I was like, I felt like I just didn't have anybody. And when I say that, not speaking of like I didn't have anybody in common like my family, because for me, I'm very close with, my mother, my parents, or whatever. And but just having that, I would say like that, close friendship. But a lot of people don't understand the concepts of friendship. They say, oh, best friend quickly, but they're
Mm.
not being a best friend. And then you got to show yourself to be a best friend. And then one day, like you, Bridget, after just crying and walling, I said, okay, it's time to get up. And then I heard that Karen, the right people is going to come into your life and they're going to see the vision. They're going to support your vision. And that's going to be that. If they can't accept who you are, they're not meant to be in your life. And that's when I had to get up and be like, okay, if I have to be by myself, for a couple of years, God, and then that's what's going to do. And I kid you not, Bridget, since the pandemic, since coming into 2020, people not in my state, not people that's familiar with me, not my family, but there's been genuine connections that has been coming, and these people seem to know me, and I'm like, they're like 4 or 5 hours away, but
Mhm.
they're seeing what's inside you. They're seeing what's inside me, and so that's why I said I love this. I love the connections and the collaborations because there are people that get you, and there are some people who close to you that they love you, but they don't get your purpose like you do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I always joke, no one in my family listens to my podcast, and it's true. It's
This,
true. No one does. And I'm not even offended by it, because if it's not for them, that's okay. You know,
right,
like
right.
that's, and I had a sister say to me, she's like, I can't listen to your podcast. You're always encouraging me to do different things. I'm just not ready. So it's fine. You have to learn to not be offended by it. It doesn't mean anything. We're all on our
Exactly.
own journeys. Have you been perfect every day of your life and like understanding and accepting? No.
No, no.
So I have this group called the Queen Circle, as you were talking about. I have this group called the Queen Circle, and they are spiritual women and they're driven women, and they're looking
Mhm.
for connection and real authenticity, like real authentic conversations. And we are tiny. There's like 6 to 8 ladies in here, very tiny group. But I have never gone out of my way to advertise for it or make it a big deal, because I wanted the first stages of it to be so authentic that
Yes.
was meant to come just came in, and that I could create this specific culture in this circle. And so we had a retreat this year, and then when they walked in,
Awesome.
oh my gosh, we've been meeting for a year online. And so when they walked in, they came to my house. It was a little nerve-wracking to share my house. They came to my house and it was just screaming and yelling and tears,
Oh, wow.
because these deep connections that we had formed online, these spiritual, emotional connections,
Hmm.
now became physical too. It was powerful. And like you said, it was acceptance. This is just a safe place of acceptance. And I actually expressed to them, because I was sharing some things through our
Hmm.
training,
Hmm.
like, I'm kind of scared to share this, because what if you guys leave me after this?
Yeah, yeah.
And one of the queens said, she's like, Brigette, we might. She says, that's how life is. People
It's like you
come
got to be
and
ready for
go.
what's to come. If maybe they can't handle it, if they don't come back, or they'll be like, well, I just can't take that. And Bridget, I learned that too. Like, okay, don't get upset and don't get mad, because maybe this person just can't handle certain things, and maybe the people that are still going to place there and is going to stick, those are the ones that are meant to be.
Or we all have different phases. I have had different mentors in my life. And sometimes I'm like, okay, I've learned what I needed to learn in this space, and I move on. And so as an entrepreneur, just as a person, you're going to have people come in and out of your life. And sometimes, what is it, that wicked song? Because I know you, because I knew you, I have been changed for good, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Like, that's what it is. We come in, we're changed, and sometimes we leave, and that's okay.
Yeah, because speaking of growth, and that's why it's like, how when you start off a babe, and then you go to the toddler stage and the teenage stage, and how we look at our kids and we say, I remember, look at the pictures. I remember when you was this age and that age, and I caught myself, Bridget, apologizing to my daughter. She's turning 16, next week. And I was still had to realize that I was still treating her like that 5-year-old, 8-year-old. And I said, I can't do it. She's grown from season to season. That's just like us. When we've overcame something, we're growing from season to season. And sometimes some people still want to pull us back to probably 5, 10 seasons ago, and we just have to express and love. We are not there anymore. We have grown to another stage, another season. Yes, we love on each other, but when we spread out, it's okay. We still love each other, but we have to move on, because like you said, we all have a journey, we all have a story, and there's other people to help, right?
Mhm. There are other people, and I think what you did was so brave with your daughter, where you apologized. And again, that was facing yourself in the mirror and saying,
Mm-hmm.
this is what's been going on. I had to do that I guess almost a year ago. I was in a competition called the Great American Speak Off, and like American Idol, right? There's
Oh,
hundreds of
wow.
people there. You got to compete, and they whittle it down and give you the golden ticket, just like American Idol. Cameras everywhere. It was really intense. But I went in shaking, like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this crazy thing. And I left crying because I got my golden ticket and was going to Miami's where they filmed the show.
Wow.
I called my daughter crying. She was the first person I called, and I said, thank you, and I'm sorry. Thank you for loving me and supporting me, and I'm sorry for not knowing or not healing enough that you are carrying some of that with you now. And I'm doing my best to heal and educate others so that they don't have to do that to their daughters. And thank you for loving me through it, even when I was not my best self. Thank you.
Okay,
And it was
Bridget, stop, because you're not gonna make me cry. Bridget's gonna make me cry, y'all. Like, don't do it. But I love that because we have to realize those things. It makes you think back to when just growing up and taking care of your son or daughter, and you think about the things that you went through, and think about it, like you said, and think about the things that you didn't do so well, because none of us is perfect. And I remember one day I was just sitting there, Bridget, and I was thinking, and I think I caught my daughter at school, and she was like, Mom, what's wrong? I said, nothing. And I was doing my quiet time and reading and meditation. I was like, something in me was just heavy. It was like, call, just let her know that you love her, and that thank her for always being by your side. Thank her for always being with you through the tough times, even though she was young and she didn't understand. And we talked about some of those things when we got older. And she was like, Mom, are you okay? I was like, yes, I'm fine. But I felt that urge. And I know that, what I'm saying, it was my spirit, of course, our spirit, the Holy Spirit telling me, just tell her, because we can't miss those times. We know today is a gift, tomorrow is a promise. So I called her, and she thought something was wrong. I said, nothing is wrong. It's good. I'm smiling, even though I'm crying with good tears. I said, I just want to let how much it means to me. I know that there were things that you didn't understand. But thank you for just being there. And sometimes we got to do that now, because times are perilous. We have to do that with everybody.
I
Whew.
so agree. And I think so much of what's hard for us to heal from is because no one ever acknowledged, no one ever said sorry, there's just no acknowledgement. And it's really hard to take it all on yourself and work through that and process it. That's why we need counselors and things to help us, right?
Yes.
Like, it's so hard. And so when you have, as a person, an opportunity to say to someone, I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
even if you didn't mean to. Most of when we hurt someone, we never, ever would intentionally hurt the people we adore. Well,
No.
we're just human too, and we're not perfect. So when you have the opportunity to do that and be a part of their healing process now versus them working through it on their own later, this is one of the greatest gifts I think we can give our children, our spouses, our
Yes.
community, is to just be straight up and say it how it is. I always say the truth with kindness, and it heals a lot. It goes a long ways when you can have the courage to do that.
I agree. I love it. And just having this conversation, Bridget, and talking about, how we get ourselves, out of the funk and start rocking the stage. It's like the first step is, like, as we're talking, I'm thinking about healing. And I remember talking about that. It was something that I shared on last week. And I said sometimes that we hold up our own healing. Like, even though we're going through the healing process, sometimes we're like, no, trying to, we're trying to turn away from it and be like, no, I still need time. I shared how some of us say, well, season after season, well, I still need time. But if you keep telling yourself you still need time, that means that you are blocking something, you're stopping something. And before we can rock the stage, like you said, we have got to acknowledge and be aware, and we've got to heal through the process, and we can't be afraid to do things, and we can't be afraid to try things. We've got to accept it and be okay with it first. So we can't really, branch out until we really deal with that. And I think that is so important.
Yes, we cannot tell the story we're meant to tell unless we're willing to take the steps forward to heal, to speak truth. Speaking truth is one of the hardest things you can do in today's world, because we're so scared of cancel culture, of losing friends, of everything is so public that it is one of the scariest things. And yet it's the thing we need the most, because there are millions of people out there speaking false lies, hate. There are so many people out there that have no problems throwing that out there. So if you're going to speak truth and love, you are more needed now than I think any time in this world. And I tell this story. I have this poster behind me. It says "Walk Sacred."
I love it.
I have that back there because when I started my podcast, it was a teacher who told me to do it. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I hate the sound of my voice. No one will say my name right. This is stupid. I marched myself upstairs. I told my husband, I said, we've wasted our money. I'm canceling this class. And he said, why not? And just him questioning cracked my little heart open a little bit. I was like, okay, why not? And then all the inspiration flooded in as soon as I opened my heart to this mission and message, right? Yeah. And so here I am sitting in my closet, because I didn't have any of the fancy stuff I have now. It was my first podcast episode. So I'm on my phone and I'm recording in the closet because that's the sound booth. And I'm right. So recording and deleting because I'm listening to it oh, this is horrible. And I'm going to lose all my friends from this. And I literally started praying. I was like, God, you told me to do this and I suck at this. I am so scared. I am so scared that I'm going to lose everything I have from speaking my truth. And the answer that came back was, Brigette, switch the 2 letters. And I'm sassy. So I was like, that is a stupid answer, God. And no, Brigette switched the 2 letters from scared, SCARED, to sacred, SACRED. When you switch the 2 letters, when you are scared, but you step forward anyway, when you step into what I've asked you to do, you are walking onto transformational ground, and transformation is sacred.
Ooh, that's powerful. That is powerful.
You have to step into it. You have to speak the truth that you've been called to speak, whatever that is, because that is how you become the person that actually impacts this world for good.
And that you can tell when you have progress, and you can tell when you're growing, when you don't care about what anybody's going to think, especially the ones that is dearest to your heart. When you know that, hey, this is my purpose, this is my story, I have to tell it. It's not just for me, it's for others. I'm going to rock it out the way that God told me to do it, the way that I'm supposed to do it. Because I know a lot of us, like you said, we're worried about, okay, well, what if they're going to say, well, did you say that you used to do that? Because that's just how society sees us. Like they always think about, oh, well, what he or she used to be, or what he or she used to do. But it's not about that. And once you just put all of that out your ear, all of the naysayers, and just go forward, like you said, okay, I've took the first step, I've took the first leap, I am growing. I'm not holding myself back anymore.
Yeah. And at first people will naysay you. They'll be like, who are you? Who do you think you are? Because they think they're keeping you safe. They think you're putting yourself in danger, and they're trying to protect you. Most of the hate that comes your way is actually people just trying to protect you. Right. But when you continue on the journey and you grow, I now have people who always, I'm just so proud of you. I'm just so amazed by who you've become, because they'll see this journey over time. And it's always awkward. I'm like, thanks. It's thanks. It's been a lot of crying in my closet.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But I don't know. So just remember, if they're hating on you, they're confused supporters. They're trying to support you. They just
Yeah.
don't get it.
And you know what? And that's something that I had to learn too a while back, and I've shared with one of my clients is that don't be so harsh to the ones that are closest to you sometimes, because at first you think, well, darn, I thought they would be happy for me. But they're trying, like you said, they're trying to protect you, and also they don't understand the season that you're in, because we all have different seasons. So it's just like, okay, well, for this season, okay, I know that I'm just going to have to go forward. And they'll come around when they understand, and when they understand that, okay, I'm okay, and that I know what I'm doing, because like you said, they're, all in all, they're just trying to protect us or whatnot.
Yeah. The intention is good. The delivery is hard. Actually, I would say the first time I got a hater, I teach this free class on mindset and how to rewrite your thoughts. And the first time, I always send a Google form afterwards for feedback. And this lady was like, this class was stupid, really hating on me. I remember I didn't cry. I was like dancing around the house because I felt like I'm presenting something enough that someone felt like passionate about it. Passion. She didn't get it. She didn't understand what I was doing, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Felt passion towards it. And I think really, if you're going to be a speaker, if you're going to put yourself out there, you want emotion.
Yeah,
And
you
good
do.
and bad is indicator that you are putting something out there worth reacting to. The feedback was overwhelmingly good. Of all of it, it was good. And then there's one naysayer. And I always ask myself, and I tell my kids this, when someone hates on you, first pause and say, is there any truth to this? This can be
Right.
a really good checks and balance for you. If you're not
Mm-hmm.
hating on yourself, is there any truth to this? Could I clean up my content? Could I provide more clarity? What did they say? Is there any truth to this? Sometimes it's straight up going to be a no.
Right.
Sometimes they might be the very person that helps you improve your craft and skill. So
True.
don't be scared of it. Actually, this is one of the best tools you have for becoming even better at what you want to do.
Yeah, I agree, because it's like in this business, and like we have a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of professional business owners, and in this business, you got to be able to roll with the punches. And well, what they all say, it's not for the weak. If you're gonna go out and you're gonna rock the stage, you gotta toughen up, because like you said, you never know that you can learn from those experiences that are not so good, or what somebody else say. And you know how when some of us are just starting out and we feel like we don't have to get a mentor, we don't feel like we have to be a coach because we are a coach, or we be like, oh, I don't want to listen to that. And I tell people that you have to get that advice. You've got people who've been there. You've got people who went through the ups and downs where it was a dry season for them for a while, and then they pick back up, and you are in that stage of where they're at. And so getting those learning curves, getting those resources from peers is good. You just got to know the right connections. But you've got people who've done it. They failed, they got back up again, they failed, and they done it again. And so you got to listen to somebody, so somebody can help you along the way.
I released a podcast yesterday, literally yesterday. This has been on my heart. And I was like, listen, there is no one that you don't love or admire for whatever traits you love and admire about them that hasn't been to hell and back. It was a
Right.
journey to get to that place where you admire them. They didn't just wake up like that. That was a process. So if you
Yeah.
admire them and you're struggling right now, just know that you're actually among amazing people. If you're struggling, that means you're becoming. If you allow yourself to become, it can be beautiful. Struggle stinks, but the good news about struggle is what happens afterwards.
Yes,
So, I mean, admire the person and know, hey, I'm becoming like them.
that's right. And what is that? Hey, it's the end of the thing that's better. um I always say that. I said, we got to look down the road. It's the end of the thing that's better, but we can't expect to go on this smooth, pretty road ahead of time. We're
Mhm.
gonna go through some bumps and bruises, but it's all gonna be worth it. And we want everybody to win. We want to see people win, and we want to see people, sharing their journey and how they got there. And we don't want anybody stuck. And that, I mean, unfortunately, all of us is not like that. But it's the more people that we, get together and say, hey, we want to help this community, we want to help this person, that's a better off will be. We can't focus on who's not doing it, but it's like, what are we going to do to make it better?
Yep. And I think that's why sharing your message is so important, because it helps people. You find your people, like you're talking about earlier, through sharing your message, because they're like magnets. They're like, oh, I know that pain. I know that struggle. One of the things that I've always noticed that's interesting about people sharing their story, whether it's on the podcast or on a physical stage, whatever it is they like to use this phrase, specifically women love to say, so I was struggling in the grocery store, and go on. And especially being in this panel of women with this Connected in Christ, we've had many conversations about it, because we're all about being authentic and truthful.
Yeah.
But this phrase, that women use is for two reasons. A, it's because they want to make sure you understand what they're throwing down, and they're a little insecure about their message, so they'll say it for that reason.
Uh-huh.
Second reason we use, is because we don't want to talk about the mess, the emotions, the struggle. We just want people to infer what we went through. But it is one of the biggest tragedies when we say, or right, or does that make sense? Because usually people don't know. Honestly, they haven't walked your journey. They haven't
Right.
been through what you've been through. And the emotions, the hardship, the things you go through, that's what people actually connect to, is the struggle.
Yeah.
Everyone's struggled, everyone's hurt, everyone's felt tiny at some point. Everyone's felt these things: frustration, anger, feeling lost. So when we glaze over the emotions of who we are and what we experience, we actually are weakening the connection we could have with one another. The emotions are the connection.
Yeah. That's true. We have to feel them. Like you say, we don't want to, these days, we don't want to feel the emotion. We like, oh, I don't want to have to rethink that or it's not that you're reliving that, is that is just something that you need to come, like you said, front, front face forward with, like, face it head on. This is what happened. Let's talk about it. Like you said, let's laugh, let's cry, whatever you got to do. And people need to understand that it's good to cry. It's a good release. It's a good release. And it helps you along the way, whichever season that you're in, to be like, okay, I got this out. Oh, that wasn't so hard, was it? But we keep things in so long, which is not good for us. But now I'm seeing more and more people tell their story, Bridget, like you said. So I'm just happy to see that, for them to share their story and for them to trust themselves, to be confident enough to trust someone else, because some of us have trust issues. But I'm glad.
All of us have trust issues.
Yeah, like, I'm not sure if I should, tell my story on this platform. But
Yeah.
yeah, emotions plays a big part, and we have to feel them. We just gotta feel
We got to feel them. A therapist that I followed for a long time, she'd say, feel, deal, heal. That was the
them. I
process.
love it.
Yeah, you feel
Yeah,
it, deal with it, to heal from it.
that's it. We can't skip it. We can't skip the process.
No, no, not if you have that discontentment, like you were talking about earlier. If you want to overcome that, if you want to feel that happy and contentment and knowing you're fully living your biggest, most manifested beautifully life. There's so many words online that they use for this. Usually it's just pictures with really pretty vacation places that I can't afford to go. But
I know,
you
right?
want to feel the feeling, then
Yeah.
you have to deal with the stuff, because it will hold you down. And I just want to know, for those who are like, but I dealt with it, because that's what I get. And a lot of times when I'm in, a conference, or I worked with this mentor, Gina DeVee, for years, and I was like, but I already dealt with this like 10 times. And she's like, yeah, we're going to deal with it again, either deeper Or we just have to remember we're not one-dimensional, we're multidimensional. And so whatever you've experienced, sometimes you have to heal from it in multidimensional ways and in different levels and different stages and places. You have to mourn whatever it is you're struggling with and heal from it. So 7 times 70, like you're going to have to do it a lot of times. And that's natural. That doesn't make you weak or small. It actually makes you strong and capable. The fact that you're willing to do it again and again and again to become who you're meant to become.
That's good. I love that. I love that, Bridget. I love this conversation and everything. And I want you to tell the audience, how they can find you, and, if they want to register for your masterclass or anything that you're doing, or even because you're a podcast coach as well. So if you can let the audience how they can connect with you and stay connected.
Yeah, thank you. All the things are on The Strong and Capable, www.thestrongandcapable.com. Like all the things, the podcast coaching, I help people train them. Actually, one of the fun things I do right now is we interview, what is your message? You and I, we coach together. What is your message? What are your key points? And then I do a fake interview with you as if I'm the host, and then we review it together. It's like one of my favorite training things right now. It's so fun to watch people see themselves and process how this looks and how it's going. And usually people are wonderful at sharing their messages. There's just a few tiny tweaks that we can do to make it even better. And then the Queen Circle is on there that I mentioned. And then the other place that I hang out all the time is Instagram, and it's Brigette, Heller, Heller on there. And I love, if you message me there, I usually see it within an hour because I'm a little on there too much.
Me too, Bridget.
So Instagram's good.
That's good. And don't worry, you all, if you did not get it, I will have the links posted. Thank you so much. Oh, before we go, what do you want to leave with the audience today, Bridget?
I hope anyone listening to this knows that they matter. Your voice, your experience really matters. And B, if you're feeling that discontentment, that's the universe, the spirit, whatever you call it, it is whispering to you, it's time to go. It's time to move. It's time to do something. So what is the next level of your evolution? It is here for you. And life is beautiful, even in all the struggle, even in the tears at night. Life is so beautiful. So I hope that you're looking in the mirror and being honest, but also loving the person that you see.
Awesome. I love it. Thanks so much, Bridget. I enjoyed having you. And thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. And we will be back with another episode next week on the We Dream Fearless podcast.